Yes, I'd like to address a project that I've been involved with for, gosh, almost 30 years. It's the Huasna oil field development up in San Luis Obispo County, California. Back in 1976, I went to school at Cal Poly University as a foreign management major. And when I was in college, my stepfather died and left my mother in debt. In order to find out if he left anything of value, I went to work in the oil fields just outside of my college, working part-time in the oil fields to learn the business. While I was doing that, I got curious about oil development, and even back as far as 1976 was trying to see about maybe potentially developing the Huasna oil field. Well, it was difficult. I was still learning the business, but I proceeded to roughneck in the oil fields in West Texas and started an oil company. And back in 1986, I tried to develop that field. I had very little money. My mother got an inheritance and used that small amount of money to try to develop this field. I hired some local fellows and we went out there and built some tanks and pipelines and things like that, and just started to get the wells going, and oil prices went through the floor, and oil was almost worth nothing at that time. It cost you more to produce it by far than what you could sell it for. So basically, just it wasn't economic. But we went through tremendous trials and difficulties in developing the field. And we made friends with all the community and the rancher there, but it was just an impossible task. Well, almost 25 years later, somebody came to me and wanted to develop some heavy oil. So I said, sure. And I went back to San Luis Obispo and actually moved there. And, got some college kids, and we basically started to tried to get the permits to develop the field. And, I had no idea what it was going to take to get the permits. Well, we proceeded to try to get the permits, and we were required to do all these studies. We did study after study after study after study, and it was crazy. One of the studies was an archaeological survey, and the guy had gone out there and taken an inventory of the garbage that had been dumped alongside of the road for the last 50 years and had cataloged it, and we had to pay many thousands of dollars for this report. The county requires us to do all these reports, and then they have a short list of people that can do these reports that are associated with the county, people in the county. I think it's called institutionalized corruption, but we didn't have any choice. So we did all these reports and studies. Well, unfortunately, people hate everyone who's in the oil business, and therefore said all kinds of bad things about me, and went to my relatives and my friends and said I was a terrible person and all this stuff. People I've never met or don't even know. There's some big millionaire and billionaire mansions out where this oil field is, and we find out that these people are behind it to play the environmental card. So it got so bad, people saying terrible things about me, and I had to leave town and I had to leave the project. I went to Canada to help with the project by raising money. And I spent 2 years in Toronto doing that, and we actually created a Canadian company to develop the field, and they proceeded to still try to get the permits. And I totally removed myself from the project because people were making me into a whipping boy, that since I didn't succeed back in 1986, and the project failed, that I was a failure, or I don't know. People made up a lot of things to try to scandalize me. Some of the people involved were as a Mr. Skinner with the Huasna Townside Association, made up all sorts of things and posted them on the internet. The Colin Rigby of the New Times put out an article that I had left behind a mess in 1986. This is simply not true. He also mentioned that I changed my name, kind of insinuating that I did it because I'm some sort of scandalous person. Well, the fact of it is, I changed my name because I went into the monastery. This was done for personal reasons, and I changed my name because that's what's required when you go into a monastery, is when you become a monastic, you change your name. So I did that. You know, I started 2 charities in the monastery. I started one in the oil industry to help poor people with their energy needs, and I started another one for women to start businesses in third world countries. You know, I also actually was a part of an environmental movement in Orange County to mitigate developments, to try to get developers not to just pell-mell develop things without in an environmentally conscious manner. So people like, you know, like Colin Rigby and, you know, the New Times and Mr. Skinner with Huasna Townside Association painting me as this horrible oil person and trying to defeat this project. You know, really, they don't even know who I am. They don't know that, you know, I actually, you know, entered a monastery to live for virtue, not for vice, as people portray one in the oil business. So I don't really fit the stereotype. You know, now the project has totally been stalled and stopped. You know, myself, I've spent years trying to develop this project. It's all ended up with lawyers, everybody suing everybody else. You know, negative things beget negative things. Why can't people work together to create something positive? You know, I was always there in that little town in San Luis Obispo. You know, I had a little office there, and I used to walk my dog Angel around the town every day, meeting everybody. I was always there to work with people, to bend over backwards, to make other people understand that development is needed, and also we will bend over backwards and do anything humanly possible to make everybody happy, to mitigate all environmental potential issues. But these people didn't want any development whatsoever, and these billionaire homeowners who lived miles away secretly, you know, financed, you know, this effort to scandalize me and to scandalize the project. And you know, nobody wants to know the truth. You know, the bottom line is it's an amazing project, but it all ended in lawsuits and negativity. Why can't people work together to create positive things? Thank you.